Hello, everyone. Come on aboard, John. We are casting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello there, John. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So happy to that you came to visit us today. It brings back a lot of memories from many years ago, like 2016, I believe it was, and I was one of your pitch students. Yes, and I remember it really well. So, I'll let you go ahead and take a minute and introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, pleasure to be here. Happy to help in any way I can. I'm John Guydon. Some people call me a pitch master, but I'll tell you, I'm a storyteller, an entrepreneur, and a speaker. I speak all around the world now for Fortune 500 corporations and sports teams, sometimes youth organizations as well. My biggest thing is all about helping people tell the right stories and tell stories that are so compelling that somebody's either willing to pay you for it or do business with you. So that's really the focus for me.
That's fantastic, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And sometimes like people like myself, it takes them a long time to learn the simple things. You get all this training, college training, but you forget about the simple facts in order, telling your story and everything. So what I've noticed is that you tell you communicate certain things when you pitch, and then you apply to petitions, certain you apply, articulate certain, and I articulate, and how do you feel about the what I noticed was when I look at something like the lean canvas, I see it as ask a bunch of questions, but also when I look at when you were teaching me to pitch, I see some of the same questions in there, in the storyline on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, those are great resources. Great resources. There's a lot of things when it comes to pitching. So if we're going to talk about, we can talk about speaking, we can talk about pitching, but if we're specifically talking about pitching for the purpose of raising money, very different from pitching for a different purpose. You might be raising, you might be recruiting a team. You might be looking for, you might be looking for advisors. Whenever you're pitching, right, you have to figure out what your aim is in the first place. So whatever that aim is, it's got to be on point. It's got to be very specific and clearly defined. If you have a clearly defined aim, then we can figure out how to construct the pitch to make sure that it meets those aims. So let's just assume that you want to pitch and the goal for you pitching is to raise money for your startup. Let's just use that scenario. And look, happy to answer anybody else's questions. But when you do that, the first thing you have to do is think about the other person. Everybody has to think about themselves. Well, we need money, and this is why we need money, and this is what we're going to do with our money, and this is this and this. Hold on. Think about the other person. Who are you asking for money? What's their portfolio look like? What are their intentions? What are their goals? What makes them happy? Think about it from their perspective. And if you start to do that, then it helps you, it helps you really create a narrative that is more compelling, that, somebody's going to hear it and go, you know what? This is a company that is going to make it whether we invest or not. Let's invest. Versus, you know what? This is a company that just is desperate for some cash. They're drawing the strings or what have you. So there's a lot of nuances involved in this raising money thing for sure.
So yes, so that I most certainly agree with that, and that's kind of what I think what I'm getting to is you have to communicate to customers, you have to communicate to people that are evaluating your pitch application, you have to communicate to people who are. So how would you say the written part of the story is different than the verbal part of the story and actually pitch it to your customer or to investors or whatever?
Again, think about their situation, right? So if you have something that's written, you imagine the circumstance, the exact time, the exact situation where they're going to be reading that, and you put yourself in those shoes so that you make sure that it's doing what it needs to do. What's the purpose of something as simple as a subject line? It's to get somebody to open the email. What's the purpose of every single word, every single line in that email for them to continue to read? So again, if it's something on your website or what have you, it needs to make sure that it lines up exactly with the circumstance at hand. Now, I want to make sure I give some advice here to some folks, because I was just having a conversation. I had a couple and this always gets me. And I think regardless of what we talk about, I want to make sure we do this. Make it easy on the other person. So and people ask me all the time, hey, can I get some introductions to some investors? Everyone wants to. So part of it is just the relationship side of things, right? Meeting investors and understanding who they are and having those relationships and then capitalize on those relationships to get funding. Now, when people ask for an introduction, here's what they do. Here's typically how it goes. Hey, John, wonder if you can, I'm raising money and I'd really love some introductions to investors. I know you're connected with some folks and maybe you can make some connections for me. It'd be really great. And I say, great. Who do you want to meet? And they say, well, anybody who you think might be interested in my company. I'll go ahead and I'll send you over my stuff and you can take a look at it and hey, take a look and watch our video. And then after you watch our video and take a look at our materials, who you think is a good fit, just go ahead and make that connection. You're putting me to work. Don't make me work. And other folks, even if they don't tell you, it's the same thing. They don't want you to put them to work. Make it ridiculously easy. Do the research. Now, let me tell you how an exceptional ask goes. Hey, I noticed that you're connected to Bob Woolery and, from the Woolery Fund. And I think the Woolery Fund is specifically great for us because of this reason and this reason and this reason. Would you mind making an introduction? And I say, sure, give me something that I can forward. So then you send me something that I'm going to forward to the Woolery Fund on your behalf. And if they're interested, they'll get back. Much more effective, easy for me. I can make the intro. So part of this is a relationship thing. Understand the transaction of raising money is just as social as it is just financial. It's not just, it is very much so about the money, but the team is very important. The dynamics are very important. So everything you do, you're always interacting. So everything you do, from the way that you introduce yourself for the first time, from the way that you carry yourself online and in social media, from the way that you carry yourself at social events, networking events, from the way that you interact with folks that they know, it all matters. It all matters because you know what they're thinking? If this is a successful company, we're going to have a multi-year relationship with them. Do I want a multiple year relationship with this team? It's not just about money. We got to have calls. They're probably going to get a board seat and sit on your board. Do they want to work with you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I appreciate you sharing that. So those are some really excellent points. So I like you telling about that referral thing, but I remember back in 2016, you were helping a lot of green founders and some a little bit experience. So just do you have any thoughts about over the years the different experience levels and you kind of said what the key things were, but just from a different founders with different attitudes. So if you could kind of talk about that a little bit, that would be great.
So you want me to talk about the different attitudes that I've encountered?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Oh boy. Okay.
Hey John, don't tell him about the time I was had to do my pitch and I played a recording.
There's those types. So when it comes to, I mean, right now I've personally helped just under 300 startups get funding and access to accelerated programs and whatnot. And then now I have a program called Crush the Talk, and it's all about creating a signature speech, right? Not necessarily just a startup pitch, but a signature speech that's so compelling that people want to pay you for it, right? The attitudes, the personalities, it ranges, right? But let me just talk about some of the common ones. And I'm gonna hit home. Hopefully, I'll hit home on one of these because there's probably a lot of Black folks listening, so I'm gonna speak directly to them too. One stage, I think it's important. especially when it comes to raising money. So there's a couple things. One, there are the founders that are new. They've got swagger and confidence. However, they are naive about how things work. And I call them the perfect team. And I'm being sarcastic when I say that. Now, I know about the perfect team because I walked in and did this. This is the move I did, right? Man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I came into my pitch meetings sharp, ready to go. I had spreadsheets and all of this. And no matter what question they asked me, I had the perfect answer. And then I was wondering why I wasn't getting any funding. What is going on? See these dudes walking in all disheveled, come out, and oh yeah, it went well, and then they funded them. I'm like, wait a minute. What's the difference here? And the difference is this. Be candid about where you are in the process. Now, don't confuse that with, yes, you're pitching vision, and you need to be able to pitch vision. That's important, right? Imagine a world, and they can go, okay, I can see a world with your business in it. I can see that. Yes. However, when they start asking their questions, so this is after your pitch, they start asking these questions, be real about what's working, what's not working just yet, what you have figured out and what you don't have figured out, because newsflash, they know you don't have it all figured out. I talked to lots of investors and said, how many of you have funded a company and the exact business model, the exact plan that you funded was the one that was successful? Never. It's never been the case. They've always had to make adjustments. So know that going in. Know that going in that it's okay. They're assessing you as a team. They're assessing the addressable market. They're assessing your attraction. They're assessing all of these things, your ability. Do I think they are going to stick through this? Because it's going to be hard. So that's one. Another one is somebody in a little bit of despair. All right. And I'm talking to Black founders. I'm talking to female founders. I've met countless ones that said, well, funding's harder to get, if you're a person of color, it's harder to get. And I'm like, hold on. Let's break this down for a second and talk about it in direct terms, directly related to you. How many investors have you pitched? And they'll say something like 4, 5, 4 or 5. Okay. All right. Do you know how many investor pitches it takes to raise a round of funding? I said, oh, I don't know. I said, so how can you then say that you can't get funding and you've only pitched 4 people? I know tons of entrepreneurs that pitched 400 investors, 400 pitches, 400 pitches. I remember being frustrated after 30, thinking I was doing my thing. 30, that's a lot of meetings, all no's. I'm like, come on, this is crazy. And the moment I started to play that card and say, you know what, it can't be because of my pitch. My pitch is fire. It can't be because of this. My business model. It can't be any of these other things. It's got to be some sort of discrimination, man. It's got to be. I just need to pitch some more folks. You don't need a ton of yeses. You just need a few yeses. A couple of personalities. I would say that, again, keeping it real is probably one of the most important things, and being authentic when you're speaking, because they can see through that. They can see through if you're not being real about it. And again, this is not just an audition of your market. This is not just an audition of your idea. This is an audition of the team as well, the personality. So they were going to be looking at how you interact with them while you're pitching, after you're pitching, before you're pitching. From the moment now we're doing virtual. It's a lot of virtual stuff, but from the moment you walk into the office, or from the moment you click onto this, everything you're doing matters. But at the end of the day, it's about a match. And look, let me just say something too. I know that the whole thing, I got my preacher rag here. I got the only thing that I think this is important to note. Very few startups get funding, period. Like, forget Black startups, white startups, this, that, Hispanic, women, forget all that. Very few startups, period, get funding. So I believe it is my core belief that if you are creating something that is solely dependent upon an investor to cut you a check, you're doing it wrong. You want to be in a position that says, I'm going to do this no matter what. You should jump on this train while you still can. I'm going fast. I'm picking up speed. I'm figuring it out. And they're going, whoa, look at this. Look at the team. Look how capable they are. Look at the traction they're having. Look at the revenue they're starting to figure out. There we go. Now, I can already see the questions already where people go, well, yeah, that's easy if you have a consumer, if you have some sort of product that, you can put together something real quick. But what if what you're building is so expensive that you don't have the money to build it, right? It's so expensive, you don't have the money to build it. What do you do if your product is so capital intensive that it's going to take you years and years to save up the money to do it yourself? That's why I'm going for funding. So you don't understand. I know that fits for most people, but that advice doesn't work for me. It still does. It still does. Do you know what one of the most compelling things are? In order for you to do a thing, to perform any act, you must first be able to articulate that act. So if you have this vision for the future, and it's going to be so beneficial to folks, so beneficial to it. I don't care if it's B2B, it's for companies. I don't care if it's a consumer product. I don't care if it costs $1 million for your product, or if it costs $7 for your product, or $1.70. I don't care. Here's what I care about. Are you solving a problem and people want that problem solved so bad that they're willing to pay for it? If they're willing to pay for it, guess what? Welcome to 2020. We have the internet. We have direct access to these customers. And you, with the right pitch, with a compelling story, with this moving set of words that you put together, you can get folks to raise their hand and say, I want that. I want that. I'm in line to get that. I'm on the waiting list to get that. Here's a down payment to get that. These are all scenarios that are real and happening. Then, you know how easy of a pitch that is? You go in and you say, I've only got 15 minutes. We've got so many pre-orders going on right now. I got to get back to it, but let me tell you a little bit about my business. They're going, wow. Or look at this rate. Look at the rate of growth we're having right now. And the product's not even built yet. Not even built yet. So that's confidence for you, momentum for you. That's confidence for them. Lets them know that you've got something going on. So my point is, if you feel stuck, if you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur and you feel stuck, you feel like I can't do this unless I get this, unless someone else other than me gives me some money, you just need to adjust your strategy. Period.
Because it sounds like an excuse,
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember my basketball coach in high school. He always used to say, "There's no excuse," so you don't make them. You find out what you're doing wrong and move forward. John, you have so much accumulated so much knowledge in this area, but it still always sounds like it's about seeing the future and articulating your vision and attracting people to it. Yeah. But I also noticed like you sort of slipped in some engagement with customers early on, even if you don't have your product yet. You start engaging with them,
right?
And too, yeah.
Right. Yes, you absolutely should. Again, I'm going to build this widget, and this widget is going to be the best widget in the world, and everybody's going to want it. Man, could you look at this? Look at this Excel spreadsheet. I mean, if we can get just this percentage of the market, if they all get the widget, man, we're going to be in good shape. What's the question that everybody's still going to ask? Now, let's just assume you can build the widget. It's buildable. It's not something that doesn't exist yet, right? It's not a single passenger capsule that's taking us to Mars. Probably still possible, but let's just say it's not that. Let's say it's something that is totally feasible. It's feasible to build, to create. But maybe you can't create it or what have you. For whatever reason, doesn't matter. You can create the vision for it. And if you can let me as the consumer, as the customer, if you can have me see it and go, I hear you, I see you, and I want that. It's the most powerful thing, period. Nobody can tell you anything. You can literally say, so how do you raise $100,000, right? How do you raise $100,000? Tons of ways to raise $100,000. I know stories of founders who raised their $100,000 from future customers. A few of them that invested in the company. They said, this is so good. I'm a customer, but I'll also be an investor. I got some cash. That's one. Two is, okay, so you've got that scenario, and then actual pre-sales. Literally saying, hey, I need you to buy this thing. I need you to put your money down and buy this thing. And once I reach this trigger, I'm going to set proper expectations and let's go. Let's go figure it out. Another issue for folks is, again, the pitch is super important because you have to, at the end of the day, no business will succeed if you can't have a healthy loop of discovery. I'm discovering your product. I'm considering purchasing it. I purchase it. You fulfill the order and I'm happy. And then repeat that. If you can't repeat that process, you don't have a business in the first place. Lucky for us, we don't need a check for that. You need the right strategy for that. You need the right infrastructure for that.
That's fantastic. That's some really good info, John. Yeah. So we talked about the different founder personalities because I've run into a lot of different founders. Some of them are cocky and think they know, and some admit they don't really know anything. But and then I always tell them, there's a process that you go through, with doing this lean startup methodology and also learning all these strategies. And so, you, like you said, an investor or a customer can see holes in what you have. And so you have to do your due diligence and follow the methodology, engaging with customers from day one.
Yeah. How many customer interviews even if you're going to go raise money, why would you go raise money? You've done no customer interviews, zero. Some founders are probably hearing that for the very first customer interview. Yes. How many potential customers have you spoken to? How many have you asked if this is something that because here's the thing. It may be a problem and you may have a solution to that problem, but the problem may not be painful enough for them to actually pay for it. So that's always the question. And if you can answer that question with actual data, you're in a much better position. I know sometimes raising money is unavoidable, obviously. And so in that case, the reason I'm saying this is because I want everyone to go into that room or go into that pitch with the strongest possible case. You want the most leverage you can possibly have. And the way you get that leverage is with actual traction. And nobody can stop you from creating that actual traction. You go to somebody and say, hey, here's what we're doing. We've got this going on. How do you think people get these future projects, these big, huge visions passed and get these they've got to get political folks to as far as zoning, they got to get funding and investor after investor after investor. They've got to make sure that all that's good. They have to get signatures in the community. It's a lot of pitching. But it's not there yet. It's not really yet, but they still need to get that buy-in. Yes.
And so I remember when we were down in Miami with the Power Moves thing, and you all brought some of the successful Black founders in to tell their story. And I remember the young lady, I can't remember if it was Blender or whatever. She said that she funded her a minimal viable product through winning pitch competition. Have you seen that strategy used often?
I've coached about 40 of them that got those pitch competition checks. Tyree Burks, who won the Google competition, was somebody who came to me beforehand. So yes, I know that very, very well, very, very well. And it's a strategy, and I think it's still not a replacement for going and talking to customers and getting product market fit. However, if somebody's doing a pitch competition, think about this. How many pitch competitions do you think there are out there in one calendar year that are offering an actual cash prize for the best pitch? Take a guess.
I don't have a number. Anybody in the audience got a number you want to type in?
Do you think there's 5, 50, or 500?
I would say 500 or more.
There are too many to count.
Yes, that's right.
There are too many to count. So, so yes, the opportunity is there. Why wouldn't you put yourself in the position to practice? Now, I want to caveat this though. You're practicing pitching in front of investors. You're not practicing pitching in front of customers. There are cases where investors say no, but the customers say yes. Now, let me explain too that both could be right. An investor could tell you no, and a customer could tell you yes. It doesn't mean that the investor is wrong. It may mean that it's not a good fit. There are lots of startups right now, definitely people listening right now that have an idea for a company and they want to get investment. They're like, if I can just get investment, it'll all be good. Let's go. But they'll never get investment ever. And that's because their business is simply not a good fit for investors. And let me explain. There's a business out there that is a $5 million bit, $5 million of revenue in business. You can churn out $1 million or $2 million in profit every single year. And for most people, right? Most of of any person, that's a solid life. Making $1 million a year, a couple $1 million a year, a lifestyle business, great. An investor, not interested at all. Not even close to interested in that. I have zero interest in a lifestyle business as an investor. As a founder, yeah, it's possible. Depends on what your goals are. So don't be so discouraged. I've heard people say, well, I've pitched all these investors and they told me no, they told me that, so obviously there's nothing here. I need to go back to the drawing board. It's like, well, what do your customers say? Blank. Right, folks.
Yeah. Well, when we were doing like the 6-week boot camp leading up to the event down in Miami, you all had some investors come on and kind of tell what they look for. And if I remember one, basically they said something about it. If you had a consumer thing, you needed a certain number of users to show you have some traction. And then but if you have a B2B, if you had like 5 or 6 happy customers and you were making, 20, 10, 20, 30,000 in revenue, and as long as those customers was happy, it sounds like you may have something there. And so they would be willing to take a look, and so, so that's, I remember that. And I share that story a lot because, but I think more importantly is when you're pitching for an investment. So my thing is I wouldn't necessarily pitch for investment until I was ready to scale my product or service out. I had proven I had a good fit. And then now I go to the investors to when I'm ready to scale.
Yeah. So, all right. So interesting story. So I was talking to a founder that I coached years ago and super proud of them. They're still in the game. They're doing their thing. And they came to me and they said, John, I'm raising some money. And I said, okay, let's talk about this. And I said, well, tell me about your runway. So for those of you who aren't familiar with runway, it's basically how much money you have how long until you go broke, basically, right? What's your runway? So, all right, well, we can go till about March. I said, okay, or March, April. Okay. So you got money till March, April, and you want to raise a round of funding. I said, okay. Are you profitable? They said, well, not yet, but we're growing. We got customers. We're doing our thing. It's a full-time job to raise money. It's a full-time job to go get customers because I don't have a huge team. So it's me doing everything. Okay. And yes, it is a lot of effort to raise money. It really is. Mm-hmm. So I just simply asked the question, and it wasn't about what was right or wrong. It was just about, let me get an idea of kind of where you're thinking. You want to raise money because you want to accelerate your growth. But keep in mind, if you aren't profitable, and some business models are like this, but if you're not profitable, you're gonna have to go back to the well to get money again and again and again. So the question that I asked him, I said, how long would it take you to be profitable? If you didn't raise money, if you just put your head down and did this, because they were already selling. So they had these metrics available, which is always good. You should, I'll tell you what my mentor, Isaac, told me that I'll tell you guys. But he said, if I really worked hard at it, I could probably be profitable by January, February. I said, I said, so let's talk about 2 scenarios. Scenario number one, in both scenarios, it takes you twice as long to raise money as you thought. Scenario one, you got yourself profitable first, which means if you want to raise money and it takes twice as long, you've got the time now. Scenario two, you did not do that. You went to raise money, but it took twice as long. Now you're out of money and you still need to raise it. You no longer have the runway to go become profitable yourself. You've lost control. You've lost your power. You've lost the ability to control your own destiny. Mm-hmm. So gotcha. A lot of considerations to take in when you're thinking about your future as an entrepreneur. You need to take into account that somebody else, an investor, is going to have different goals and different aims than you. So something for folks to think about.
Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, you talked about being able to articulate a compelling story. So could you kind of just elaborate on what's the real secret sauce of, let's say, pitching to an investor? But I think most of the audience I have here, we're more they're more at the concept stage, or and trying to learn about the ecosystem and what's out there, these pitch competitions, these pre-accelerated programs, these boot camps, et cetera, et cetera. And so do they want to use pitch competitions to raise money to kind of work on their MVP? Yes. And so what suggestions would you have for a person at that idea stage and in concept stage?
Okay. All right, let's do this. You're at idea stage, you've got an idea, and you don't have a ton of money. You don't have a rich uncle out there that's funding you. So you're going to have to figure something out, right? You either got to sell a product or you got to raise money. First thing, obviously you need a solid elevator pitch. So elevator pitch is that quick deal. You're not telling everything. So a formula for that is for customer with problem, we, and what we do. So it's the customer, the problem, and what you do, right? So it could be like, if it was the hair club for men, right? It'd be like for men with, for men who are going bald, you know what I mean? That's the customer. Mm-hmm. And the problem, men who are going bald.
Okay.
Like, we have a spray that makes it look like they're not bald, whatever, right? So then they're going, oh, I get it. I get what the three things are. Mm-hmm. That is a loose framework. Obviously, make it sound good and try it out. Try it out. Anybody who sits and tells you, oh, this is really solid. This is really solid. Go out. Everybody's going to love that. They're just guessing. They don't know. You've got to go test it. A mentor of mine, Isaac, said, I don't care if you've sold $500 or $500,000 last month. If you don't know why, or you can't duplicate it, you're sunk.
Okay.
No matter what you do. So if I've got a new concept, if I got a new concept, not that much cash, no rich uncle, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this together and as fast as I can get it in front of who I think would be interested. Mm-hmm. What I would do is I would actually I'd put a video together, I'd put a website together and I'd talk about it, and I'd spend $50, $25, $10, or if you already have some folks, if you're familiar with the target, send an email out or a message out, and I would get them in front of the site and I would make it look real. I would make it look completely real. Okay. Like as if it's built, it's there, it's done, it's real. Because I want to know, can I get somebody to go from, I don't know you, to take my credit card? Mm-hmm. If I can do that, the rest is easy. Mm-hmm. And in order for you to do that, you have to tell a compelling story. So here's the magic here. Think of a story kind of like plumbing. So if you had to get water from here down through here, there are different aspects. Now let's just talk about the digital. We're talking about a website, talking about a landing page, talking about anything. You've got to get them from, I don't know you, to take my credit card. Well, there are steps involved. So first is the targeting. That's the top. Are you targeting the right people? So once you get that together and say, can I get them to click to go to my digital property, right? To go to the storefront. Can I get them to even go? Okay, that's the first one. So if I can solve that problem, great. So it's not about me targeting and getting them there. I can get them there. what is the right messaging to get while they're there, to get them to take the action I want them to take, whether it is to give me their email, whether it's to click the buy now button. There's a friend of mine, entrepreneur, who's multimillionaire that I think his website still says beta. He started it out and he created something that didn't exist. And he went out and he sold one, then he turned it off and he went and figured it out. And then he turned it back on and he realized that he could figure out how to kind of make this business part work. So back to it. So you figure out your targeting. Now you want to see if they can take that action. There's messaging and narrative and story even on your website, the written part or video. I love video. Video is phenomenal. It's a way to go. I'm building some products now and I'm using video. I'm taking them straight from an ad. Give me your email, watch this video, take an action.
Okay.
That's the structure. So then once you get that figured out, then it's like, okay, if I can get them to the next part, then I need to get them through the checkout process. So all of it is literally just getting them down this funnel from I don't know you to here, take my credit card. I mean, that's really it. When it comes to actually pitching, how do you know if your pitch is good? Well, a couple of tips. One, if you're doing a pitch and I call this the most effective feedback loop in the world. Find 10 people who are literally part of the target market, right? Not your mom and dad and your friends and your significant other, because they're going to tell you like, good job. We don't need all that. We want people that are going to give you that real feedback, feedback. It's not about your feelings. It's about getting things done correctly. So if you get this feedback loop, it could be 3 people, but 10 would be great of your target market, and ask them to be part of your advisory board, your personal advisory board. So then you send them the pitch and you say, at any moment of this pitch, if I lose you, if you're bored, you start checking your phone, anything like that, pause and tell me exactly where you got lost. You will collect the most powerful data that you could ever collect, because you'll start to see a pattern. You'll start to see exactly where people are falling off, where they're getting bored. Okay, maybe I'm being a little too wordy here. Maybe I'm not telling the story correctly. And then after the pitch is done, if you even get them through the pitch, do they know the things you need them to know? Quiz them. And if they don't know, you failed. And if they do know, then that's good. And then you can ask yourself if I can tell that in a better way. There's a bunch of nuance to get this thing polished, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. I've got a whole process for creating a signature talk, like a TED talk or some sort of speech or a keynote or something like that. And it goes from these rough conceptual ideas to putting these ideas in a loosely put together structure, then starting to edit, make your cuts, make your edits, put together what I call a bad talk or a bad pitch. Now, when I say bad, I mean before any delays. Biggest challenge is you have an idea and you just stay in your zone. You're not leaving. You stay in your zone. You won't let anybody see it till it's perfect. You're trying to hone in on it and make it perfect. And by the time you do that, you get out there and you realize that what you thought was perfect is not perfect. And then you're demoralized and you're down. Get it out there. Get it ugly. Get a quick version out there. See what happens. Learn from that. Take it down. Redo it. Put it back up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's some good insights. Good insights there. Yeah. So what I'm gathering, from listening to you, and there are a couple of questions in the audience, and we'll get to those. That you have to really want to learn, about these things, and you have to be willing to listen to what is being taught to you, because there's a lot of nuances that if you think you know it all already, you're going to miss out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, and that's basically what I see. So let's try a question and then we'll get back. So it looks like Carlos. Carlos says, how can I reach out to John if I want to see if he can be my pitch mentor? And so that's what the question is. So you can answer that, or if you like, John.
Sure. So my website is johnguydon.com. I put it in what I think is, I don't know if it's the chat or the stage, but It's www.JOHNGUYDON. That is my site. There's a contact us form at the bottom there if you want to reach out to me directly, and you can do that through my contact us form. If you're specifically talking about you creating a signature speech, you being, creating something so compelling people want to pay you for it, that is a course that I have called Crush the Talk. And you can go directly to crushthetalk.com and give me your email, and then you can watch my video and book a call with me.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wasn't familiar with that signature talk product you had there. That's fantastic. Okay, Versell Vance has a question. He says, have you ever applied for a patent for a product, and is it was critical to investor funding?
Never.
Okay.
Never. It was never critical to funding. There was IP that they wanted to make sure. Now it is critical that you own your IP, right? But that's critical. But as far as getting a patent or having a process patent, not really. Now, let me give you the caveat. I didn't really work in physical products, so I wasn't building widgets. So a lot of digital products and whatnot. However, I know folks that when they're getting started in the beginning, they're saying, let's figure out if this is a thing first, and let's figure out if there's some patents, if there's some patents available, because sometimes there's not, but that's what it is.
Yes, and I think you answered the rest of his question as well. So Carlos had another question. Do you have any sources I can look into about pitching and the things you're talking about?
Oh boy, there are a lot of different resources. I believe Techstars has some resources. There are some resources out there. I don't know exactly where you'd find them, probably on their Facebook page or their website. They've got some content there. There's a lot of bad advice out there as far as pitching. I would look at things like TechCrunch and some of those things and figure out. Now, again, everything with a grain of salt, but success leaves clues. So go find companies that have raised money. So literally, if I were you, what I would do, forget tracking down the tips. What I would do is I would go to the tech news. Let's just say you're in tech. It doesn't have to be in tech, but let's just use that as an example. You're in tech news. I would go find out everybody who got funded, everybody who's been funded in the last 3 years, 5 years, and then go find their pitch. Typically they're public. So yes. Go find their pitch and watch it. Take notes. Take note of the patterns that you see. What are the common themes that you see in all the pitches? What are some things that they're telling you? Oh gosh, this is how they speak about traction. This is how they talk about their team. This is how they talk about their market. This is how they're explaining the problem. How fast are they getting through the problem? How fast are they getting to the demo? There are tips and tricks all through there, right? If you told me you had a 3 to 5 minute pitch, I'm going to tell you, okay, I want you demoing within 30 to 45 seconds. I want you doing this, this, and this. You can't spend this much time on your team. It really depends, because sometimes you're doing a talk for a group and it's a 20-minute talk. Sometimes you're doing a TED talk. I did one last October. Or sometimes if it's a 3-minute pitch, 2-minute pitch, it all changes the structure and whatnot. So you want the modular pieces so you can put that together. But if I were you, I would go find the people who got funding, and then if you really can, figure out the ones who closely match what you do or the industry you're in or the market you serve, and go see what their pitches look like.
Yes, and I think that's perfect advice. And so whenever I come up with a new idea and I want to go out there pitching, and so what I do, like with this platform like Hopin and these other platforms, and the way I found out about Hopin was I wanted to attend a demo day that they were having up in Atlanta, and so when I went to register, it was Hopin, and so there, like you said, there are too many pitches to even count up there, and so like on platforms like Hopin and these other platforms, there's always pitch competitions going on. There are always demo days, so you can actually watch people in different fields pitch their idea and learn from it. You hear what the investors are asking, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, it's out there, and you can learn from just observing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
let's see. So what, John? We're trying to here in Pensacola and in the region. We're trying to help people understand that there's a startup ecosystem out there, and there's you can get training, and so like I told them, what part of my story was, I got referred to a accelerator program from doing a pitch, and then from that accelerator program, I got referred to the Power Moves thing where I met you at, and so but you have to get started somewhere. And so what we're trying to do to bring more Black founders and Latino founders out of the woodwork is let them know, if you know of a problem that needs to be solved, there's a whole ecosystem out there that can help you and train you to turn your idea into a product or service. And so next month we're going to announce a small pitch competition for the local area, where it's not going to, we're just going to say, well, something like maybe describe your idea in 250 words or something, like the Cox Get Started program or something, just to try to make more people aware that there's opportunities out there and they should start working on their idea, because there's this whole ecosystem out there that can help them move forward. So we'll probably let them do a 3-minute pitch, and have some small prize money plus some, and we'll let them get into our accelerator, pre-accelerated program. But so the people in the audience, like if you just getting started with idea and you just trying to figure all this stuff out, and you have to, so is there, my point is, you have to get started somewhere, no matter how bad the idea is, but you have to get out there and start pitching it and learning.
Absolutely. So, if you can't find help, you're not looking. There is so many resources out there. Now, let me say that, and look, and it depends on your resources, right? There are free resources, there are paid resources, there's coaches, there's all these things. I will say this too. I think as leaders, we do a really bad job of letting folks know how much we sucked when we started, how bad these companies' pitches were in the beginning, how it was just like, oh, it was horrible, right? And so if you meet some of these successful startups, ask them just flat out, go, hey, did you suck in the beginning? Was your pitch horrible in the beginning, or did you just come out just golden? It wasn't golden. For the most part, I'd say 75%, 80% of the pitches were straight garbage, right? And we had to do some work to make those better. I mean, one example was I love working with Tyree Burks, because he's a former athlete and he's very right. And so he brought me his pitch, and I did tell him his pitch was garbage. I was like, yo, this is garbage. And he was so excited, right? He was like, great, this is why I'm here. Like, let's go, let's do it. And so coachable, right? Was able to take that stuff. It's not personal. It's like, what are you here for? You want to create a multi-million-dollar business, which he has. He's doing very, very well. And so, just so for everybody who's just getting started, know that it might suck in the beginning, most likely will, and that's okay.
Yeah, and so like at that idea stage, they may have did a little customer discovery or whatever, but what would you say that would be some key components for like a 3-minute pitch, when you're at the idea or concept stage?
When you're at the idea or concept stage, and I mean, so okay, that's a bit of a loaded question. So 3-minute pitch, and all you have is an idea. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So obviously, it's going to be heavy on pitching the vision and the future, heavy on the market, heavy on the opportunity, heavy maybe on some research that you've done to say 47% of this target market are saying that they are looking for a solution just like this, right? Here's what sets us apart from everybody else. So I think it's heavier on that. You're going to be light on traction because you don't have any traction. but you can still say from, I would still go do customer interviews or something like that.
Yes.
Also about the team, right? If you've got a strong team, lean on that. So lean on what's strong, and lean into what's not strong. It's okay, but in a pitch, if you take your basic lean canvas stuff, I mean, think about an investor. They're going to want to know what's the problem, right? What's the solution, and like what's specifically your solution. So I want a demo, right?
Yeah.
Problem solution demo. I want market. I want team. I want business model, right? I want all of these things. So you can still talk about business model. You're going to be wrong, but that's okay. Talk about team. You might be new. That's okay. Talk about the team, and you got to be creative. You can talk about the market. That's all of you get to check all these boxes. So it's like it's a piece of art. The shorter the pitch, the harder the pitch.
Yes. I got you. So like you mentioned demo. So you're gonna this is kind of facetious, but you mentioned the word demo. So how are you going to demo your product or service that you don't have in that?
Again, maybe some of these folks are like, I don't know how to figure out how to do that. You got to get creative. And so if it depends on what the product is, but if it's a digital product, that's easy. You mock that sucker up. There's literal pieces of software that are designed for you to be able to design your product. It's not real yet, but it feels real. When you click here, it does this, and then you could literally mock it up to be it feels real, and you just and you just make that work. So yeah, there's one of the names. I don't even want to endorse any one of them because there's a bunch of them, but there are these pieces of software that allow you to do just that. If it's a physical product, bring a prototype, show the idea, or get a rendering of that, right? You pay somebody to do a rendering of that. If it's not digital product at all, or a widget or anything like that, let's say what do people do when they're pitching 90 apartment doors, right? Okay, there's gonna be 90 homes in this big building, and they're gonna have a pool and a slide. How do they pitch? It's not built yet. How do they pitch? They get an architect, they get a designer, and they show this is what it's gonna look like. And then they go, ooh, all right, I'm gonna invest in that. But then what do they move to? They move to the market. Where are we putting it? We're putting it in this area for this. They go to the team. Oh, we've got the best contractors in the best. They go to the right, like all the same components are there. So again, no excuses. Yeah.
Yes, and the reason why I brought that up, because I think a lot of new founders or new people that have the idea stage, they think they have to have something built before they go out, trying to market it or to raise, or to pitch it, and so but I think some early founders or new founders don't understand that. And that's why I asked you to explain how you would do a demo of something you haven't created yet. So, yeah. So it's pretty interesting. We got a couple more questions here. Sandy says, I guess, you were saying you work with around 300 startups and assist them with their pitches. And so the question is, how many receive funding and are still viable businesses now?
Great question. So I will context this answer with 90% of startups fail. So and of the 300, we didn't. So I worked with Tom Chikaori with the boot camp and helping, and we didn't choose the startups either. So I was just handed a batch. I was just handed a batch of fun. But still, we saw 40% of those folks, 40 to 50%, so maybe 140, 150 of those folks were able to get some sort of funding or acceptance into accelerator programs. Some gone on to raise millions of dollars. And I'd say we're, 1.5 to 2 times better than the average. So maybe 15% of those companies are still viable today. Some doing really, really well. And so, it's pretty, there's a few that are doing extremely well. So it's just, and some of those founders I'm really proud of because they've gone on and started new things, right?
Yes.
I'm going to solve a new problem and a new problem and a new problem and a new problem. So that's
So yeah, I think that's a excellent answer there, because when you're in these programs training people, you don't choose the people you're actually training to pitch, though, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can't use don't bring that 8 mile baggage into your business. Don't bring it in, because it's not true. As a founder, you can't bring out what I call the 8 mile baggage. Is Eminem, and he says, "Do not miss your chance to blow. You only get one shot." No, it's not true. You don't just get one shot. And if you're telling yourself that, quit telling yourself that. It's not true.
Mm-hmm. So let's see what the next question is. Jim Sparks says, "What do you think you did best in your very first pitch to an investor?" So what do you think you did best in your very first pitch to an investor?
Okay. Very first pitch to an investor. Okay. That's easy. Okay. So the two things. One, I did it. So that's the best thing I did is I did the pitch. I set it up and did the pitch. Practically the best thing I did was probably just passion, because I didn't know a doggone thing. I had a 30-page business plan that nobody read. I had all this stuff that was wrong, and I was way off with so many different things, but passion. They knew that I believed in what I was doing. They knew that I believed in it, period. And I think that's probably the best thing I did in that very first pitch.
So I guess also he's wondering if you did any recent pitches, and what do you think you did best in that?
So I'll say this: it doesn't get any easier. You just get better. Yeah. So I'm better at building relationships. I'm better at identifying who I should be speaking to in the first place. I'm better not wasting my time by knowing that they're not a good fit and letting them off the hook before the meeting's up. I'm better at all of those things now. And so building those relationships are key. But I think the biggest thing now is to still show passion, still be sharp and all those things. But they know that I am not desperate for their money. When I was young, I felt like I came in and it was like, please, I need this funding. It would just make my world. And now I realize that I'm giving them an opportunity to work with me. I'm giving them an opportunity to earn a return on their money. I'm giving them an opportunity to be a part of what I'm building. And I'm building that regardless. So I think just a different swagger that maybe takes a little bit of time, but we're always still learning. But me now, I'm trying to avoid needing to pitch investors. What I want is a group of them that are willing and able, excited to give me money if I need it, but I don't need it.
Yeah. So like if you have a B2B product and you're and they're corporate accelerator program. So you, in essence, you're pitching to potential customers in that case, but those potential customers will provide some funding, but it could be for you to do a pilot for them or something, or they could eventually do investment. But to me, and those things, the customer is telling you what they're looking for, and so you have to pitch, to those. So and so that's a slightly different way. And I guess you have to just make sure you're pitching that you understand their problem and you got a solution for their problem.
Well, sure. There's got to be a fit, but it doesn't matter if you're talking to a person, if you're talking to a consumer, or if you're talking to the CIO of a Fortune 500 company. They are still a person. They're still a person. They have to eat food, take breaks. They have fears, and they have insecurities too, and they have uncertainties, and they have things that they're trying to do. So you got to really think about their situation. Sometimes a business may say, this is good, but it's unproven. And if I go with the safe option, I don't lose my job. But if I go with your option and it doesn't work, I lose my job. And I got a good job, so I'm going to say no. And then so what do you take that for? How do you take that? How do you receive that as an entrepreneur? How do you mitigate some of those challenges? These are the things that having a good narrative and a good storyline will help you with, because then you can get them on the same side of the table as you and say, how do we work through this problem?
Yes. So we got about a minute left, John. So why don't you tell the folks what you're up to now and how they can take advantage of some of the stuff you're doing with your companies now.
Well, I'm speaking all over the world and having a damn good time doing it. And I'm teaching folks to create and deliver signature talks that are so good that people are willing to pay you for them. So, and if that's of interest, then check me out. I'm doing a lot of other stuff too, documentaries and whatnot. But I'm telling stories. So go on to my site, johnguydon.com. You want to learn more, and then also you can go to crushthetalk.com as well. And if you're specifically interested in telling a signature speech, doing the TED Talk or whatever.
Yes, and so what's your description of a signature talk?
My description of a signature talk is a speech that is compelling, refined, unique, share-worthy, and for your audience, hands down the best thing they've heard ever. It could be a TED Talk, so it could be 12 to 18 minutes. It could be a keynote. It could be a keynote speech, something like that. It could be a kind of a conference session that you do, but you always, as an entrepreneur, you always want to be ready to jump on stage or jump on screen, or I don't care if you're speaking on stage, on screen, or on the moon. You want to be able to always be ready to jump on stage and kill it. You want to jump on stage and crush it at any given time. You got to always be ready.
And so that Crush product you have, tell me again what that's all about, Crush the Talk.
Crush the Talk. So I walk you through, there's 7 different modules, but I walk you through how to go from idea to a signature talk, something that you can get up and do it. Like I said, do a TED Talk, do a keynote. Now, a lot of folks have the ambition that they want to get paid to speak. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, it's a decent idea for you to become an industry expert or to become a go-to in that stage. So you being an exceptional speaker and being able to communicate in that way gives you the ability to do that. So then your company then gets to draft off of how awesome you are on stage. You're like, wow, she's so good, man. Then you go and that's it. Simple as that. So it's for folks that want that outcome.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. We sure appreciate it, John. I appreciate you responding to me, reaching out to you. And I think you provided an excellent basis for the folks here to kind of get started. I know you made a big difference in my startup, and I want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Happy to be here. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.